Friends, namaste and welcome to our Sunday edition of Gyan Ganga Words of Wisdom on our Virat Hindustan Sangam social media channels. We are today back with another episode, and today Dr. Subramanian Swamy will be discussing was the inclusion of the word socialist and secular in the preamble during the emergency days in 1976 permissible. Dr. Swamy will give us the background and what he thinks can happen in the future. So, with this, we start our today's program. And as you all know, we are weekly having two programs. One on Saturday at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. That is the Legal Words of Wisdom, Nyay Gyan Ganga, and our regular Sunday program of regular Gyan Ganga Words of Wisdom at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. And my co-host, Professor Arvind Chaturvedi from Delhi and Mr. Ramesh Swamy from New Jersey join me in welcoming you all to this program. We thank our technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Vishal Mehta, Ishwar Iyer, Rakesh Gadgi from Bangalore, Tejas from Pune, and Swaminathan from Chennai for their background support to put this weekly program together. So, with these words, it's over to Dr. Subramanian Swamy for his remarks and discussion on inclusion of socialist and secularism in the preamble of the Constitution as done during the emergency of Indira Gandhi. Over to Dr. Swamy.
Yeah, thank you, Jagdish. Thank you also, Narayan Swamy, Ramesh, and Professor Chaturvedi. Today, this subject I chose because some time ago, when the death anniversary of our farm leader, he suddenly died of a heart attack. And I've known him for years and years. He was a man who was working in Geneva as part of the United Nations, one of the United Nations branches. He gave it up and became a farm leader. And he became a highly respected, popular farm leader. He got a lot of things done for the Maharashtrian farmers. And then in the election, he thought they will all vote for him. But they said, he is our farm leader, but he is not our caste leader. And Sharad Joshi, his name was, in case I missed out mentioning it earlier. And I suppose this Maratha Brahmin tangle that is there in Maharashtra probably made him. But he was deeply disappointed. And he ended up getting a heart attack, which he survived. And then later on, I think he was nominated to Parliament in the Rajya Sabha. And I met him several times after that. Jagdish remembers because he has been with me in many of the meetings. And he was very keen that he had filed a petition in the Supreme Court saying that this inclusion during the emergency of secularism and socialism was uncalled for, because some of us are not socialists. So how can you say in the preamble of all the things that there is socialism? And secularism, it has so many meanings, it will confuse everybody. So as long as you say Sarva Dharma Samabhav in English, that's good enough. That's what Indian socialism is all about. So he wanted a particular emphasis was on socialism, and he wanted that to be deleted, and he refused to take oath till he was persuaded that this is only a technicality and so on, and wrote in Rajya Sabha on that basis. That he said, no, I don't believe in socialism in the Constitution. But anyway, I remember him as a man who sacrificed his entire career for the sake of the farmers. And he was a great intellectual. And he was also a big supporter of mine. He used to make sure that his meetings I was invited to attend, because he was essentially against socialism in belief and in practice. And so, and I was, of course, from day one against socialism. So that's how it happened. So now, what is this preamble of the Constitution? The preamble, the first thing when you open a constitutional book says, "We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign." Originally, it was secular, democratic. Originally it was just a sovereign, democratic republic, and to which these two words, socialist and secular, was added. And to secure for all its citizens justice, which is social, economic, and political, liberty, thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, which is what I used in the Ram Temple case, equality of status and opportunity, and to promote amongst them all, and then fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual, and then it was added on unity and integrity of the nation. That's also added on. In my opinion, not only is the addition of the word socialism and secularism obnoxious in a constitution, because first of all, socialism is a political ideology. There's nothing permanent about it, and there's nothing that the people have given it. Some politicians decided that they believe in socialism. Secularism is, there's no definition that we know which we can adopt. And as far as secularism means faith, freedom, faith, liberty for faith, that's already there. So why was it added? And so this was Mrs. Gandhi's fantasy. And the way she added is by a constitutional amendment under Article 368. Now, how do I remove it? Do I remove it by a constitutional amendment? Or which I'm thinking of telling the court, that you say it is this inclusion was null and void because there was no basis for the amendment, and start with that thing, because the preamble, according to Dr. Ambedkar, was given by the people as a mandate to the Constituent Assembly to bring about a constitution. And during the freedom struggle, neither secularism nor socialism was much spoken about. Only Jawaharlal Nehru here and there spoke about it, but nobody paid any attention. All that was those four things which are listed, justice, liberty, etc., which I just read out. These were mentioned frequently through the freedom movement, that if we come to power, we'll ensure that. So it is a people given mandate under which this constitution is made. So the preamble is the most important part. Now, the Constituent Assembly, which drew up this, and under the Constituent Assembly, the president of the Constituent Assembly was Rajendra Prasad, a scholar in his own right. To the chairman of the Fundamental Rights Committee was Sardar Patel, and the chairman of the Amendments Committee, Drafting Committee, more important, Drafting Committee, and who piloted the Constitution, accepted, rejected amendments, was Dr. Ambedkar. Another very highly educated person, were two doctorates, one from Columbia University in 1916. It's hard to imagine an Indian getting a doctorate, and that too in economics. He wrote a thesis on monetary economics, which is still very relevant to read. Then he went and got a DSc from London School of Economics, and then followed up with another degree on which he became a barrister. bar at law, and he came back to India, and he joined public life. And he was made as the chairman of the drafting committee. Of course, he had a lot of able civil servants like B.N. Rao. He was in fact knighted by the British. He was an ICS, I think. B.N. Rao, Sir B.N. Rao, he used to be called. And there were other such four or five people who were part of the drafting committee, of which the chairman was Ambedkar. Now, then the Constituent Assembly considered this document, the preamble plus the entire Constitution, and then they decided to accept and reject and so on. So when it came to the preamble, the drafting committee had the requirement to transform what the people wanted into specific words. So a draft was drawn up. This is the specific words which I have read out. And amendments were called for at that time in the Constituent Assembly, the assembly which is making the Constitution, not Parliament, which is a creature of the Constitution, moving constituent amendments to the Constitution. So in that discussion, H.V. Kamath said that this is a godless Constitution, so you should begin like the US Constitution, I think, in the name of God, we etc., etc. All the other sentences he said the same, no change. But you should begin by in the name of God. This was supported by another Shivanlal Saxena. And by the way, in 1977, both H.V. Kamath and Shivanlal Saxena, they were members of Parliament of the Janata Party. So, of course, I didn't know that much law that time. So I didn't. But he was a highly respected person, very knowledgeable, very, very good parliamentarian. And after a long absence in Parliament, after Nehru's departure, he also didn't enter Parliament. But he came back in 1977. So these are men of very sterling quality. And so he wanted this extra phrase to be added, in the name of God. Shivanlal Saxena also wanted the name of God, but he said also Socialist Republic, you should say, not just any republic, but Socialist Republic. And then there was a Brijeshwar Prasad. I think, I have not been able to place him well. He was from Bihar. He was a nominee for the Constituent Assembly from Bihar. Constituent Assembly was, I think, about 120 or thereabouts. Socialist and secular he wanted to add to the preamble. Now, Kamath called for a vote. He said, no, there should be a division. That means the votes have to be counted. And he lost quite substantially those who were against his amendment. Because Ambedkar, in conclusion of his speech as a drafting committee chairman, he said, when we have said faith, why should you say in the name of God? What about those who don't believe in God? There are atheists in our country who don't believe in God. Then what happens to them? Are they not citizens? So when you say faith, faith covers both those who believe in God and don't believe in God. So therefore, he said there's no need for this amendment. And so it was voted, and it was in the ratio of 2/3 to 1/3 defeat for Kamath. Then Saxena Kripalani, whom also I met in 1977 with his wife Sucheta Kripalani, and very, very witty man. He was, although by then almost 90, and he was very witty, a very witty person, and a tremendously good parliamentarian. Was the last president of the Congress Party before independence, and therefore, he was a highly respected person. And he told Saxena, oh, for God's sake, what is all this? Withdraw it. So he withdrew it. And Prasad lost by voice vote. So all the amendments that were moved for bringing in socialism and secularism were rejected by Ambedkar and then voted either voice vote or by withdrawal or by actual count of votes, and they were decisively defeated. And therefore, there was no reason that if the Constituent Assembly says no need for socialism and secularism, why you should put it in our constitution? Indira Gandhi. What is so special about Indira Gandhi that she should want this come in? And it was brought in during the emergency when the opposition was either like me, gone underground, or they were in jail. And suddenly all the leaders were in jail except Vajpayee, but Vajpayee did not attend parliament because he was out on parole. So one of the conditions is that he will do no political activity. So therefore, there was just nobody. And when I came on 10th of August 1976 to make that point of order in the Rajya Sabha in 1976, there was nobody. It was all empty except for the communists. Nobody was there in the opposition seats. It was completely empty. So in that they brought in, there was no discussion because it was emergency and nobody wanted to have any discussion. Other matters, there were here and there lawyers speaking up, but for this one, there was no discussion and it was inserted. Now, the methodology used is a section called Article 368, which empowers the Parliament by 2/3 majority to amend the Constitution. Now, what happened is just before the emergency, there was a well-known sannyasi called Keshavananda Bharati of Kerala. Whatever Keshavananda Bharati, we met him, I think Jagdish might remember, in Kerala, one of the Festival of Lights thing, perhaps in some remote corner of Kerala. And what?
He was from Kasargod and we met him at Uppala in Kerala for a function.
That's right. Sat next to him. I couldn't believe that Sadhu could create such a... So he had a problem about some plots which were taken away. So he went to the court and that thing started growing. And so ultimately a large number of judges, I think nine judges, 13 judges assembled in a bench. And because what happened is that his land was taken away, and so he gave a constitutional challenge. So they considered it, and these 13 members went into various other aspects, and they said this mentality of the government to go on amending the Constitution and putting it out of shape, there needs to be some rationality for it. So they came up with a concept called basic structure. And that meant, they said, you can amend in the Constitution anything but, say, fundamental rights. You cannot amend the preamble, because preamble was given by the people. And on that basis, or what the people gave, it is something that was constructed by the Constituent Assembly. And if you want to change the preamble, and I'm interpolating, if you want to change the preamble, then ask the people again. That is, you create a new constitution, but you cannot amend the preamble because it is given by the people. And even amending the articles of the Constitution, you cannot amend fundamental rights. I mean, you can't do away with fundamental rights by amendment. There are so many other things. There's so-called basic structure. And the concept of basic structure came, and the court said that preamble is a part of basic structure because it can't be amended. And therefore, this is 1973. Yet and therefore you can't, what the court said in 1973, 13 judgment, that you cannot use Article 368 for amending. There are limitations to Article 368 amending. So today, tomorrow, somebody can't come and pass a resolution saying, or like in emergency, they could pass a resolution that now Indira Gandhi is going to be the Queen of India. In fact, Devkant Barua was the president of the Congress Party. He was almost talking in that kind of language. He said, Indira is India, India is Indira, there's no Indira, there's no India. So there was a rumor in those days, I remember, that Indira Gandhi might appoint herself as the Queen of India. So therefore, could you convert a democracy into a monarchy? So the court says, no, these are the things which you can't do. And these set of things which were put together, they all represent part of the basic structure. And the preamble is also a part of the basic structure. You can't amend it. In 1973, yet in 1976, despite this judgment being on the record, of 13 judges, Indira Gandhi got the parliament, what I called as the captive parliament, for which they expelled me from the from the parliament, the first historic decision ever in the history of parliament. Of course, I retaliated in the Janta government and got Mrs. Gandhi dismissed from parliament membership. And when she got dismissed and the order was passed by the speaker, she was sitting there, and then she saw me. She said, "Are you satisfied?" I said, "Not yet." But anyway, there was another story. But the fact is that the parliament was used as a rubber stamp, and Article 368 was being mechanistically, and it could be taken complete out of shape. So therefore, what happened is that the court had anticipated this in 1973 and said, no, you cannot do this. There are things you can't touch. Democracy you can't touch. You can't touch fundamental rights, etc., etc. So therefore, this socialism and secularism is now illegal, or it is a blasphemy, I would say, or an error of two kinds. First is that it had already been discussed in the Constituent Assembly when the preamble was being adopted, and the amendments moved by these names I gave you all were rejected, and therefore secularism, socialism was rejected by the Constituent Assembly. So how can a creature of parliament now overturn the makers of the parliament's decision, unless you take a referendum of the people? And that means a revolution. And that, of course, Indira Gandhi had no time. The only referendum was the general elections, and she was defeated in that. So therefore, I have now an extremely good case to go to court. What will I say in court? I'll say that the preamble when designing the preamble, when writing down the preamble for the Constitution, secularism and socialism was considered, and it was deleted. I mean, it was rejected. So second, Kesavananda Bharati case, which was decided by 13 judges, said that a preamble is a part of basic structure, and two, basic structure cannot be amended. So putting it together, what was the preamble in 1973 was the preamble in 1950 when we adopted the Constitution, and therefore in 1976 some gross illegality had taken place by using Article 368 to bring it in. When the courts have already held 368 cannot be used for amending the basic structure, which means the preamble. So that was one part. Now I ask you a question. If under Article 368 you can amend and bring in socialism and secularism, then I can also tomorrow, if we have BJP has a 2/3 majority, which it does have now, bring in Hindutva into the preamble. How would you like that? And how can you object then? So either you say there's no question of bringing an amendment to remove socialism and secularism. According to me, all that has to happen is the president now, as the repository of the Constitution of the Constituent Assembly, he should say that by a huge error of understanding the Constitution by Indira Gandhi and her followers, secularism and socialism has been introduced, and therefore it should be deleted. So I'm not asking for amendment, I'm asking for deletion. But if you say that it was brought in by an appropriate amendment, then I can say a future government can re-amend the Constitution, remove these two, and bring in Hindutva. How will you stop it? There's no way to stop it. And therefore, in order to protect our country, that religion does not enter. That was the argument Dr. Ambedkar kept using. You see, don't bring religion, believing in religion or not believing in religion. Faith is enough. And faith is, if you have faith that there's no God, then there's no one who can challenge you. If you have faith that there is a God, then no one can challenge you. So therefore, Ambedkar was very clear in his mind that please don't mention in the name of God, because we are not getting into that at all. You believe in God, you don't believe in God, that's up to you. But your right to believe in God is as fundamental a right as the right to not believe in God also. So Article 25 of the Constitution gives you the right of worship. You can't be denied that right to worship. And that if you add faith to it, then you will do what I did in Ram Mandir. Ram Mandir was originally a fight for property. Is it belonging to the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyaya Samiti because they were the trustees? Or does it belong to the Waqf board because it was Muslim land? At least that's their claim. So I brought in a third factor, that my faith tells me Ram was born there. You can't challenge faith. If you go to the criminal law, the IPC, yesterday I forgot to mention it. It doesn't matter. I forgot for some reason the lights have gone off. No, that's okay.
Dr. Swamy, you can continue.
Yeah, I continue. So what I'm saying is that the question will be to me that I can convert this into a Hindu Rashtra by an amendment. And but I shouldn't be allowed, because we are a country which believes all paths lead to God. Sarva dharma samabhav. So I don't need secularism. The only thing I need is you will not interfere in my belief or lack of belief in God. I have freedom to worship as I like, but the freedom to worship, the Constituent Assembly put in 3 restrictions. It should not violate morality. It should not create a problem of public order, and it should not violate public health. So these 3 restrictions can be put. So if somebody says to get a promotion in my work, I must behead my first son and put it before Kali, I'm sorry, we will not agree. It may be part of religion, may be part of the tantric philosophy, anything. But in a democratic country like India, with a constitution, violates morality, and of course, it certainly violates health of the child. So, same thing. If I believe, I'll say that kill all Hindus, as the jihadis say. That violates public order. So I can stop him from quoting Quran, because Quran may have some phrase about jihad. I don't know. Many people say no, there's no such phrase, but that non-believers should be killed. But if there is, I'm sorry, it cannot be propagated, because it violates the my fundamental right based on public order. So therefore, we now are in a situation where it will be possible for the first time, because everybody thought it could be done. So many people have been rushing to court and getting it dismissed. And I'm sure that after seeing this Gyan Ganga, some others may also file. So we need now to go forward on this and remove it, and thereby honor the memory of our Joshi, Sharad Joshi, who was a great farm leader and a man who made a lot of personal sacrifice and who died prematurely. And one of the last things he said to me was, the last time I saw him, is don't forget that you must use your best efforts to see that socialism and he didn't say much about secularism, because secularism is already there. I mean, it's only if you say Sarva Dharma Samabhav, that means the right freedom of religion is there, and it's their faith. Faith is included in the preamble, so there's no need to. But it was debated and removed. The the amendments brought in by H.V. Kamath and others were all defeated. So you can't dishonor the Constituent Assembly in what they did, and what the courts are now saying, that this is a part of the basic structure. And that has been repeated in 1980 in a Minerva Mills case. It has been repeated again in the Bomai case, and it has been repeated and repeated many times. Let us understand, the preamble cannot be touched. Mrs. Gandhi betrayed that, violated that, and we will not dignify it by removing secularism, socialism by a constitutional amendment. We will just say it's ipso facto, removed, because it's no right to exist in the preamble. It's not a question that is no more current and therefore should be adopted. So these are the principles on which I am urging. We are not against secularism, because we believe in Sarva Dharma Samabhav. There's no need for us to beat our chest about this word secularism. Who can define secularism? The Hindus have defined it. All paths lead to God. We are the only religion, by the way, which says all paths lead to God. Christianity says if you don't believe in Jesus, you are possessed by the devil. And the Islamic faith says that if you don't believe in Allah, then you are a kafir. So we don't have any of that. We don't believe. In fact, Gnostic, non-believer, is a person who is accepted as a Hindu. Shankara said that. In fact, Shankara went a step forward and said about in Advaita that everything is Maya. So I'm saying that the Hindu religion is by nature secular by the normal definitions. And there's no need for us to tom-tom it in the preamble for it. And when the Constituent Assembly has rejected it, there's no further arguments left. And now we have, because we say preamble is part of basic structure, it cannot be touched. And two, it has been held in Supreme Court judgments that where it is a preamble, it cannot be amended. and basic structure. If it's part of basic, and preamble is part of basic structure, and therefore it cannot be amended. So therefore, there is very strong grounds that preamble can't be touched, and having touched it, you polluted it, and so we have to clean it up. And all we do is not the president just issues a notification that these two, secular and socialism, don't exist. And if they insist, and the court says, no, you can't amend the preamble, then I would say, let us move an amendment that India, that is Bharat, is Hindu Rashtra, so that teach those people a lesson. Thank you very much.
Dr. Swamy, I have a question for you on behalf of the viewers. Some of the viewers would like to know, just after the emergency, a government headed by Morarji Desai, Janata Party came to power. Was this issue, in the emergency, this was known as the 44th Amendment, but when it became implemented, it became the 42nd Amendment. Was this issue not discussed during the Janata?
Yes, it was discussed.
So could you tell us?
I was one of the elected members of the select executive of the parliamentary party, chaired by Morarji Desai, and it was by elections. And although Mr. Vajpayee refused to allow me to get a ticket from the Jansangh quota, Nanaji Deshmukh and Morarji Desai ensured that I stood as an independent and got elected. So, of course, we were all Janata Party at that time. Jansangh and all was just a label. And so I became a very important member of the parliamentary party executive. And I was not like somebody who's come on a party quota. I was the one who, and I, by the way, I'm sorry to say, I defeated Advani in that election. So, in that, this matter was raised. And I put up a fierce fight. And but the socialists in the Madhu Limai, George Fernandez, and the like, who were also part of the parliamentary party executive, they said, no, we are socialists. If we agree to this being amended, then we'll have to leave the Janata Party. They anyway left later on, but at that time, we were in the early stages of the Janata government. So the socialists fought, and Morarji Desai then tried to tell me, listen, some other day in the future you'll get it. At that time, we never knew all this, these constitutional benches that had sat and decided this. The Keshavanand Bharati case, I was not so well educated in law then, so I didn't know about it, and nobody told me also. And as far as secularism not being removed, Mr. Vajpayee put his foot down. He said, no, it will look as if we are all yielding to the Jansangh, as if there's something wrong with that. So it should remain. So these two were left. Nobody brought it to our notice that time that nobody brought it to our notice at that time that these are illegal. I mean, they are imposters. They should not be there in the first place. That argument nobody gave us, and even the law ministry people who were invited to the parliamentary party executive meeting didn't tell us. So therefore, we let it go. And there was also another item whether right to property should be fundamental, and there also the same problem arose. The socialists were very aggressive, and we did not. The right to property was originally fundamental, Article 31, but that now has been deleted. It was deleted during the emergency and it's been deleted, has remained deleted. So except for these two, we amended everything else.
Dr. Swamy, a question, more of a naive, or maybe, as we say in America, a dumb question. The Keshavananda Bharati case was in 1973.
Yes.
So when the majority 13-judge bench said that you cannot amend the constitution, Indira Gandhi went ahead.
the
Basic
the
structure.
preamble is part of the basic structure.
Basic structure. But then how did she succeed in doing it in 76?
She didn't care. There was
So
no
nobody challenged it after that.
parliament who got up and said this. Who is going to challenge the emergency?
No, post-emergency.
Post-emergency, I told you that we brought in the 42nd Amendment to undo the 44th. We brought in the 44th Amendment to undo the 42nd Amendment. But these two were adopted. Secularism, socialism being in the preamble, and the property is not a basic right.
Basic right. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a fundamental right.
Fundamental.
Yeah. So that was a concession to the socialists from not leaving the party. They left it anyway. That is what it is. So it's a case. See, we have to understand that why is it not being why didn't Sharad Joshi know all this? He had Ram Jethmalani, so many people helping him. They didn't know. I mean, his arguments are that I, as a individual, it violates my fundamental rights to be told that I must propagate socialism. So that was his argument. That is not the same thing as a legal argument or a constitutional argument, which is what I am giving you.
Dr. Swamy, good that you mentioned the name of Dr. Sharad Joshi, who was who formed the Setkari Sangthan in Maharashtra, and later he also found Swatantra Bharat Party in fight election. Janata Party had alliance with Swatantra Bharat Party for 48 seats in Maharashtra, I remember.
Yes.
Dr. Sharad Joshi, when he formed his party, he approached the election commission to say that he will not be signing the document of election commission unless the constitution is removed. Number one. Number two,
not in the constitution. Not in the this election commission had amended its Representation of People's Act to say that the election commission shall not register a party which does not swear by secularism and socialism.
Right. Same thing when he became the Rajya Sabha member in 2004. For several days, he refused to take the oath in Rajya Sabha. He said, I will not take the oath of Rajya Sabha member until these words are removed from the constitution. And many people persuaded him that, it will never be done. And so therefore, ultimately, he agreed to take.
Yes.
My question is, when Mrs. Gandhi did it, was it for due to the pressure of leftists in her party, or was it to appease the socialists outside her party who were opposing it, like Jayaprakash Narayan, Chandrasekhar, Ashok Mehta, and so on and so forth?
Only showing off. Because Congress party plank throughout was we are secular, rest are communal. So therefore, they brought it in. Indira Gandhi was an illiterate, you know that. She didn't pass her exams. She never got a bachelor's degree. She went to Oxford and failed and came back. Of course, everybody in the Nehru family is like that. They probably have a world record in the number of exams they have failed. But the fact is that she didn't know anything. No one was there to tell her. Gokhale, he was a very renowned lawyer, Gokhale, H.R. Gokhale. But he moved the amendment. I said, anyone wants to say anything? No, silent. And what to that?
The word socialism is not clearly defined. Socialism, opposite of socialism is conservatism. So, some people say socialism is equality in the society. So, Indira Gandhi herself was confused what exactly, because we have in Europe a word called democratic socialism.
When in the Constituent Assembly, they have said that there are many, many types of socialism. How can we include that? Then we'll have to define what socialism is. You are saying it means, equality of people and all that. But what is Russian socialism? They also say socialist. Chinese in those days had even harsher version of socialism. Norwegians had another version of socialism. So I think, and Ambedkar was right. He said, well, it makes no sense when we don't even know what it means. And same thing with secularism. What is the need when we have said fundamental right to pray, and we have put faith in the? Why should we say secularism? What does secularism mean? Ambedkar was a highly educated man, no? So he brought out what Martin Luther, the man who first invented the word secularism for state and church to be separate, was Martin Luther in Europe. And that had nothing to do with the socialism, the secularism that we talk about. It is already there in the established, and the Hindu tradition also has been that we have never made religion as a condition for being the king. It was only the Buddhists who did. Ashoka was a theocratic king, and all these liberals quote Ashoka and Akbar as two great liberals. You see that India has produced, but they were in fact on religion very strict. So therefore, I think it is what is really shocking is that with the Minerva, not Minerva, the Keshavanand Bharati case, nobody spoke up. People were afraid in the emergency, and by the time it was passed, in Parliament, Parliament started in November of 1976, and which to consider these amendments. And Antole had drawn a position paper which was dangerous, as dangerous can be. But unfortunately, even the Congress party was not very happy with it, maybe jealousy also. So they did not. So they were H.R. Gokhale created these amendments, and it was finally the presidential sanction came for it in end of December. In January, she declared the election. So where was the time to contest it in court at that time? I'm sure Palkiwala and others could have, but they had no time.
Incidentally, Arvind Chaturvedi, the Sharad Joshi had filed a petition in the Supreme Court challenging the amendment. Unfortunately, he died before it could be heard, so it has lapsed.
Yeah, but his argument, it would not have it would have been dismissed, I'm telling you, because his only argument was this, that it violates my fundamental right. You see, fundamental right 19, not 25, but 19, my right for free expression. That if I have to commit that I am a socialist, which I am not. So, but he did made me promise that I would take it up someday. And I had forgotten all about it till I saw a newspaper about Sharad Joshi's death anniversary. I don't know how suddenly it came on the media. It hadn't been coming in the media for years and years.
His death anniversary is on 12th December.
Something like that. No, but there was something, maybe they are celebrating on the 12th December. I hope my case comes before 12th December so I can give him a present in his memory.
डॉक्टर स्वामी, भारतीय जनता पार्टी के अंदर इस मुद्दे को लेकर क्या सोच है? क्या भारतीय जनता पार्टी के कुछ लोग आपकी इस राय से सहमत हैं? क्या आपने कुछ क्या है पार्टी के अंदर कि सेकुलर शब्द को हटाया जाए, क्योंकि वहां पे हिंदुत्व के अलमबरदार बहुत हैं और वो कितना मजबूत हिंदुत्व का आंदोलन है, ये शायद इसमें परिलक्षित होगा कि वो इस मुद्दे पे क्या सोचते हैं?
नहीं, बट हिंदू धर्म तो सेकुलर है ही। वो तो कहते हैं सर्वधर्म समभाव। वो कहते हैं कि किसी रास्ते से भी जाओ, या इस्लाम से जाओ, भगवान पहुंच सकते हो। रामकृष्ण प्रूव्ड इट ऑल्सो। उसने मेडिटेशन से थ्रू इस्लाम ही सॉ अल्लाह and or Muhammad, I don't know which, but and then he saw Christ and so on. At least this is what his bhaktas say.
डॉक्टर साहब, 5 अगस्त को जब अयोध्या में नरेंद्र मोदी जी गए थे राम मंदिर का शिलान्यास करने के लिए, तो असदुद्दीन ओवैसी ने मुद्दा उठाया था कि चूंकि संविधान में हम धर्मनिरपेक्ष हैं, सेकुलर हैं, इसलिए प्रधानमंत्री मंदिर में नहीं जा सकता।
अब उनको बताना चाहिए कि संविधान में गलती से है, अब उसको ही समझाना चाहिए उसको। कि होना ही नहीं चाहिए था, तुम भी कहाँ इस गलतफहमी में हो। हिंदुस्तान में सिर्फ है कि सब सर्वधर्म समभाव, faith, equality in terms of faith. So nothing more. Secularism doesn't mean that. In fact, Jawaharlal Nehru's time and Indira Gandhi's time, it was always believed secularism means you don't propagate your religion. I have a right to propagate Hinduism as long as I don't debunk another religion. And you know, in all my speeches, I hardly mention, I don't debunk the religion at all. I only talk about what Akbar did and what Aurangzeb did and that sort of thing. And that Islam is very intolerant when it comes to other religions. Those are all factual situations. So basically, there's no point in talking about secularism when you have a Hindu majority country. And if you go on insisting that you can amend it, then I think the BJP has a right to amend it and say we are Hindu Rashtra, which we will not do because we don't need to. India, see, after all, this constitution is ban on cow slaughter. Tell me, is that not against secularism? That you don't eat cow, all right, but somebody else wants to eat a cow, how you can stop? It violates his freedom. But we have put it in the constitution because.
No, but ये हमारी धर्म की, हिंदू धर्म की भावनाओं को आहत करता है. It hurts our sentiments.
I think we have lost Dr. Swamy. Just a minute. He has not completed his statement that this is on the Constitution.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Dr. Swamy, you were telling us about the cow slaughter thing.
Yeah, I'm saying that cow slaughter is an imposition on those who eat cows. But it's in the Constitution. It's part of the directive principles. Directive principles, I can't go to court and say my fundamental rights are being affected because I'm not able to eat a cow. I can't say that. But what they cover, directive principles is in the Constitution. It is written in Article 37. This is an Article 48, ban on cow slaughter. 37 says it shall be required by governments to implement each one of these directive principles.
And I think
So
Sanskrit
for implementing,
even Sanskrit and uniform.
Yeah. Sanskrit is there in the Constitution, Article 340 and 351. 351 is on Sanskrit vocabulary, and 340 is on Devanagari. The Hindi shall be only in Devanagari, and its vocabulary shall be from Sanskrit.
Dr. Swamy, interestingly, next weekend, Sunday, December 6th, is Ambedkar's death anniversary.
Next Wednesday. That is
next Sunday. Next week, exactly.
December?
Next Sunday. 6th, yeah.
December. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Ambedkar was a truly great man.
No, in fact,
after reading the debates, I'm really impressed. I mean, I always knew, after all, he has a PhD in Columbia and a PhD from London School, a DSc from London School. He must be a very bright guy. But after seeing the way he has argued, I don't think that, certainly the draft was produced by B.N. Rao and one or two H.V.R. Iyengar and others. But the way he piloted it, and in Article 370, he told Sheikh Abdullah, I will not move it. I'm not a traitor. Go and find somebody else. So they had to find somebody else. Although the chairman of the drafting committee, who was authorized to move amendments and accept amendments and reject amendments, is Ambedkar, he did not appear for Article 370. It's later on the rigging of his elections by Jawaharlal Nehru in 1952, and then in by-elections of 53 and 54, that he suddenly came to conclusion, because he lost his deposit in all of them. And so that is when he became bitter, and then converted. But then Christians and Muslim padres and mullahs came to him saying, please convert to our religion. He said, no, I'll stay within the family of Hindus. And that's how he became Buddhist. So I think, it was a scandal. And, it's a disgrace on the Nehru family that they consistently refused to give him Bharat Ratna. For his sheer work, not leave other things, but his work on the constitution is enough to get him 10 Bharat Ratnas, according to me. And I certainly, and this is not my new view. Jagdish knows, even in Bombay, when I used to campaign, I used to talk about this. You see? So this is how our country treats people of talent. That's one of the problems. Sardar Patel, I mean, I had to do it. I was shocked when I saw the file that his name was deleted year after year by Nehru and Indira Gandhi. And finally, in 1991, we gave him the Bharat Ratna. Ambedkar got it in 1990. So this is, these are people who have created all this network for us and this foundation for us, which is keeping us as a democratic country.
In fact, we are having this program on between two important events, as Ramesh pointed out. 26th of November was the day the Constituent Assembly adopted the Constitution in 1949.
That's right.
And Ambedkar Punyatithi is on next Sunday, the 6th of December. So it's a very...
So today is 26th, I think, no?
No, today is
29th.
Now 29th is all. We have passed it.
Because of our weekly program, it was on 26th. And another significant landmark is the 6th of December. Over to Arvind for his closing remarks.
डॉक्टर स्वामी, आपके जो विचार संविधान में परिवर्तन के बारे में है, संशोधन के बारे में है, बहुत से लोग आशा भरी निगाहों से आपके इस वक्तव्य की ओर देख रहे हैं और उनको उम्मीद है कि जो लोग इंदिरा गांधी फैमिली, नेहरू फैमिली का विरोध करते आ रहे हैं, उसमें भी कुछ लिबरल उदारवादी तत्व हैं जो नहीं चाहते कि इन चीजों का विरोध हो. लेकिन आपने जो बीड़ा उठाया है, द वर्क दैट यू हैव प्रॉमिस्ड to pay tributes to Dr. Sharad Joshi, who had started this issue, we all hope that you will succeed. And the word which was added in the parliament in absence of entire opposition, when the opposition was in jail and there was no opposition in parliament, and the word, now this justice can be done to this amendment. Justice can be done.
Justice Narendra Modi can do it. Just tell the president, declare this as null and void. All you have to do is declare null and void. When in 1973 it says this is part of the basic structure and basic structure cannot be amended, you have in 1976 introduced it, and on the very principle which you are not allowed to use, that is Article 368. So this is one. Second, I must tell you another thing on reading these Constituent Assembly debates. I found there was a huge controversy on what should be our national anthem. An overwhelming majority of the members of the Constituent Assembly, they wanted Vande Mataram. And Jawaharlal Nehru and others were hell-bent it should be Jana Gana Mana. Now, Jana Gana Mana is a fine tune. I mean, it's for international events and all, Jana Gana Mana is a very fine tune. Vande Mataram is not a tune. It's just evocation that it does. And it is, of course, Vande Mataram, mother. It is, and that is Mother India. Now, finally, we reached November 26th, and nobody had the nerve to bring in an amendment to include Jana Gana Mana, the Jana Gana Mana as the national anthem, because we'd voted against. And people who brought in amendments say Vande Mataram. So most of the people who were against Jana Gana Mana was on the words, Vidhata and all these things. There is some evidence that when Tagore wrote this song, the King George I had come to Calcutta. And so in his honor, the then Congress party had asked him to compose a song. Now this is being denied, but according to I'm not saying anything is conclusive, but whatever I've seen convinces me that it was written for it, and some of the wordings are like that. So Subhash Chandra Bose on October 21st, 1943, formed the first British Free India government of India in Manipal, in the capital of Manipur, excuse me, not Manipal, Manipur, and he got the wordings changed so that there is just no doubt that this is nothing but for Bharat Mata. Beautiful words, which many people don't know. I think we should have probably a session on national anthem. And then Rajendra Prasad, who was the president of the Constituent Assembly, he didn't know what to do. This is one unresolved item, and they didn't want the outcome by vote. So Rajendra Prasad, on 26th November, when the signatures are all to be taken of all the members of the Constituent Assembly, he made an announcement that we have still not been able to decide on the national anthem. And my suggestion to you is that instead of taking a vote on it, let me propose that both Jana Gana Mana and Vande Mataram will both be treated equally as national anthem, and either can be used. And he went on to say that most of the members' objections are to the words, some of the words. So in future, any government of India can amend those words and replace it. That Subhash Chandra Bose has already done. His Jana Gana Mana, which he played on 21st October 1943, was Jana Gana Mana tune. About 80% of the words are the same as the Tagore's Jana Gana Mana, and 20% he has put in patriotic Sanskritized words, the new Jana. So in my opinion, our government should adopt this because it is permitted that Jana Gana Mana, a subsequent government can amend any part of the wordings of this song. So you got a carte blanche. You see, now we are not able to do even this. You see, very sad situation. But I think we should. But there is no awareness, so we have to create awareness. I hope we think maybe we can even have a movement on this issue because there's such an emotional issue. But I intend to take it up after this secularism and socialism. The next thing I will take up is the amendment of the words of Jana Gana Mana. And if you don't want to amend it because it will offend Tagore and his followers, then make Vande Mataram as your national anthem. And keep Jana Gana Mana in abeyance. You find this too revolutionary for you?
This is a very important issue you have raised, and you have also given us a clue for a further debate in our Gyan Ganga program, Words of Wisdom program. Thanks for these words of wisdom. In fact, there has been a debate on Jana Gana Mana also because we have Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha. Sindh is a part of Pakistan. Sindh is a part of Pakistan, and therefore this word should be removed and replaced by something else.
And the whole of the south is Dravida.
Yeah.
Name each of the 4 southern states by their own names.
Yeah.
You have Bengal and Punjab and all that, but for south it is Dravida.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe we'll further discuss this issue in one of the episodes of Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga. We'll also discuss Vande Mataram, because there are elements in this country who refuse to sing Vande Mataram, who refuse to honor the Mother India.
Yeah.
And even people say कि हमारी कनपटी पे पिस्तौल रख दो फिर भी हम वंदे मातरम नहीं बोलेंगे. Such type of people some action should be taken against those people, and their integrity should be questioned. We will discuss these issues in further episodes of Gyan Ganga. We invite the suggestion from the viewers also about the Vande Mataram issue and Jan Gan Man issue. What are the objections and how it should be resolved. Thank you very much, Dr. Swamy. Thank you, Jagdish Shetty.
No, let me interrupt you. We may have to consider one point of view.
Yeah.
That Vande Mataram ultimately names Durga.
Yeah.
So Durga is there in there. So what Rajendra Prasad said is the first 4 stanzas of Vande Mataram, because there's no reference to any god, goddesses, nothing in it. So you can say the national anthem shall be Vande Mataram of the first 4 stanzas.
So what do you think Mataram is?
Mataram is just mother, Mother India. Yes. So anyway, I mean, the freedom fighters all spoke, sang only Vande Mataram. Right from the time Bankim Chatterjee who wrote it, no?
Bankim Chatterjee, yes.
Huh?
Yeah, Bankim Chatterjee.
Chatterjee. So right from his time, people have been singing that for the freedom movement. Anyway, but let's get rid of socialism and secularism.
So on behalf of entire VHS family, we wish you success in your initiative that you have taken to oppose these 2 words, secularism and socialism for the Constitution. And we hope you succeed. Thank you, Dr. Swamy. Thank you, Jagdish Shetty, Ramesh Swamy, and our technical team, which is behind the scene, led by Ashish Shetty, Gadgi Rakesh, Swaminathan, Tejas, Vishal Mehta, and Ishwar Iyer. Thank you very much. We will be meeting again on Saturday in the episode of Nyay Gyan Ganga. And again, we will be meeting on Sunday with Dr. Subramanian Swamy to discuss another episode, another issue in next episode of Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga. Thank you, viewers. Thank you very much.